Hey everyone, another chat with Rachel. Congratulations! You just made it to video 4 of the public speaking masterclass. I'm so proud of you. The content that you've learned already will transform your public speaking. I promise you. You have already learned so much. You know what you're doing. You learned about managing your state, managing the energy of the room that you go into when you public speak. You learned about your audience. Who are they? What do they want? What do they need? Why are they giving you their time? And now we're at our last part of the triad of public speaking. Now we're going to learn about content and messaging. But I'm going to challenge you. Don't start here. I know that's what they taught us in school. Start with your stupid essay and then read it out loud. Don't start there. Start with your state. Start with knowing your audience. And then the content will build itself. It will be completely different than if you start with content alone. Let the content form as it needs to form for your audience, for the state that you need to be in. Anybody can write a list of 45 things that they have to spout out to an audience, but not everybody will give a performance that will change the lives of their audience members. We are here to change the lives of our audience members so that they not only gain information, but they leave your speech with a feeling, with information, with something that they carry forward that has now become part of them because you gave it to them. Because you gave it to them. So, now that we are talking about messaging, I do have a few hacks. Hack number 1, keep it simple. Keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 45, 80 million, no. 1, 2, 3. You might have the most sophisticated audience that can follow every single thing that you're saying. But you still should keep it simple. Why? Keeping it simple keeps your audience engaged. You want your audience paying attention the entire time. 2, you want to make sure that they don't just hear the information, you want them to carry the information with them. A super sophisticated audience can take information in, but for them to actually apply it later is a different story. Keeping it simple gives them a framework for continuing on forward after your speech. That's what's going to add value to them. Keep it simple. You're allowed to be repetitive so that people remember your basics. Put your information into 3 buckets. And I don't care if it's a semester of information or if you're talking for 5 minutes. Having 3 separate buckets will keep your audience and yourself on task. And to be honest, the more complex the area is, whatever it is that you're describing, if you can put it into 3 buckets and not more, what that tells me is that you really know your content. Because anybody can make a bullet point list of 1,000,000 things. But not everybody understands how all those million things integrate together and work together as a unit. When you're able to chunk your content into 3 separate categories, it makes it memorable, easier to use for your audience going forward. It creates confidence in your audience. Because I know you've really synthesized this information and that you're giving me something that I might not be able to put together in that way, in such a simplistic way, on my own. Wikipedia is not going to do it for me this time. You're doing it for me. What a value add. So that is hack number 1. Hack number 2, I call it Big, little, big. So, when you start your speech, tell me what you're going to talk about. Give me the big picture. Don't start with a detail. Give me the big picture. Why am I here listening to you? Give me the big picture of what you're doing. And the big picture could be a story, a headline, a series of events that happened. But give me the context. Don't keep me guessing. Don't hide all the goodies for the end. Tell me why I'm here. This will keep me engaged. It'll also help me frame up as the audience member about how I need to think about and categorize the information that you're conveying to me so that it's useful. Start big. Give me the big picture. Next, let's talk about the little, the details. Now, they don't have to be that little, but the details. This is where you put your 3 buckets. Here's the issue. People don't like public speaking, but I'm here today to help people get better at it. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm imparting on you. And there are 3 secrets, 3 details, my 3 littles, that you can master. I'm going to talk about them right now. Headline, footnote, whatever it is, bold. 1, managing your state and learning the techniques to do so. 2, knowing that audience. What do they need? What do they want? What are you giving to them? You're giving to them more than just information. You're giving them an emotion. You're giving them something that they can carry with them. Number 3, in bold, the 3rd detail, we're talking about messaging. How can we maximize messaging so that the audience actually synthesizes the information that I am giving to them? Those are our details. And then the big picture at the end. So why are we here? We're here because people think that they're not great at public speaking. But the truth is, they just don't have the tools and the mindset to get the job done. And once they learn those things, once you engage these tools that I gave you through this presentation, some of them, most of them, you've probably heard of before and you've probably tried in the past, but now you're going to do it all. You're going to be transformed. This is the big finale. Why are we here? This is also where you bring this back to the audience member and you speak directly to them. This is for them. This is why I'm presenting to you and not to somebody else. Big, little details are 3 categories. Big. My 3rd hack for messaging and content is to tell a story or multiple stories. Why do we tell stories? Well, we are in a world where everybody has some sort of attention deficit, right? It's rare to find someone who sits down and actually reads a full book or can even watch a movie all the way through without hitting pause and doing something else in the middle. We're all on TikTok, swiping away on Tinder. We don't even have time to go find a date just out in the normal world. That's just not how it's done. We are in an environment where we've taught ourselves that things should come fast or we swipe to the next one. If it doesn't engage us, swipe. Move forward. That's great. I'd like to challenge that this is like a generational thing. I think that it's the environment we live in, certainly. But I don't think there's something unique about the millennial or Gen Z brain that makes it so unlikely to pay attention to something that's longer. I think the difference is that we have content that they can zip through faster. But have our brains really evolved that much over the course of 25 years? Probably not. Probably not. So what do we need to do? We need to harness what the brain already pays attention to. Our brain pays attention to stories. We like stories. That's why we can sit through a TV show. That's why we can sit through at least half a movie. That's why we can sit through, an audiobook that's being read to us. If you tell a story, it engages your audience and it keeps their attention. It also gives them a framework to place the information that you're teaching them, that you're telling them. They're going to remember more when it's told into the context of a story or multiple stories if you need to tell a few. We're here today to talk about public speaking. Many of you, including myself, struggled with public speaking when we were children. I remember being that middle schooler who wrote up her essay and she had to go present it in front of the whole middle school. I remember how scared I was, literally shaking. I had to give my presentation right after lunch. My mom and I think my dad and stepfather came to listen to me, maybe my grandmother as well. So it was a full house, and I remember not being able to eat. I was so scared and having this tense energy where I was almost like shaking. And all I had to do was stand up and read a piece of paper, that was probably 5 pages, that I've read a million times. I highlighted the words that I was going to stop at so I could look up at my audience. All I had to do was read it. I knew how to pronounce all the words on those pages. I wrote all those words. Terrifying. And then I remember getting a little bit older. You're in high school and in college and having to public speak often. It was just part of the gig. I was a French major. Part of that is actually speaking in class. You need to speak so that they can see that you're able to communicate in the language. And it was when I was speaking French that I learned that public speaking isn't that scary. Part of the reason I learned that is because I messed up all the time. I always said something that wasn't right. I was always corrected. And I learned that if you're corrected or you say something wrong, the world doesn't explode. You don't fail your class. You can still get A's. In fact, you're more likely to get a good grade because you're standing up and you're giving it your best effort, and people appreciate that. And then fast forward, I went to law school, and all of a sudden I learned that when I'm public speaking, I can tell a story. When I'm on a mock trial competition, that's what I'm doing. I'm telling a story. And that's how I'm engaging my jury. They don't know anything about the law. They're not lawyers, but they do understand stories. That's when I learned how to tell a story. So, telling stories transforms the experience of your audience. It keeps them engaged. It helps them to remember what you actually talked about. It's relatable for them. It's so relatable. Now, without you saying it, they're in your shoes or you're in their shoes. It brings you together. It's like eye contact, but for your soul. They're here in the present moment. They're not thinking about the lunch they forgot to pack. They're not thinking about the email that they didn't send. They're in the present moment sharing this story with you. So that's it. Those are my messaging hacks to go through them really fast. We had number 1, keep it simple. ABC 1, 2, 3, keep it simple. Our number 2, big, little, big. Tell people why you are presenting. Give them the littles. What are those details that they need to understand? And big. Why do they care? Why are you speaking to the audience right now? What have they gained that they can bring forward? Make sure you're telling stories because that's what's going to help your audience remember the content, engage with the content that you're presenting. That is how you connect with your audience. You're ready to go. You know how to master your states. You know how to get to know that audience. And now you know how to frame up your messaging and your content so that it is the most valuable 15 minutes that your colleagues spent talking about whatever it may be that you're presenting on, that they spent that time that's so precious to them on something that they find valuable, on something that they can carry forward. Thank you all so much. It has been my pleasure to talk to you about one of my passions, public speaking. I would love to hear from some of you about anything else you might want to learn about or discuss in more detail. Of course, I'm always available if you have any questions about public speaking itself. This has been absolutely a privilege. Thank you all, and I'll see you all in my next video. Take care.